the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Direct us, O Lord, in all our actions, that every work and prayer may begin with Thee and through Thee be successfully completed through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. The 12th day of Christmas was last Sunday.
Monday.
Monday. Okay. Pray for me, friends.
Mathematically challenged.
Among other things, among many, many other things, we celebrated Epiphany. So my question for you this week is, what did you preach on Epiphany?
Well, I read a lot recently on the Feast of Christmas, rather on Christmas Eve. There was something in the Wall Street Journal that caught my attention. This has appeared on the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal every year since 1949.
1949.
On Christmas Eve. It was written by a man who was in charge of the editorial page. His name was Vermont, Connecticut Royster. He was kind of classically educated. He was from North Carolina, and they had a family tradition. When children were born, they all received the names of states. Like have a sister named Iowa, Kentucky,
Florida.
But I looked him up on the internet, and he said that he was responsible for sort of reshaping the Wall Street Journal before
he needs
took over.
To send his great-grandson.
Well, and before he took over in the 1930s, it had been a very narrow, business-oriented publication, but he expanded it. And there are just so many wonderful, wonderful articles that appear now. Well, anyway, this appeared again on Christmas Eve, but it seemed to me that it applied equally to the Feast of the Epiphany. He started off by, when our Lord came into this world, the whole of the known world lay in bondage. There was one state, and it was Rome. There was one master for it all, and he was Tiberius Caesar. Now, it's kind of a Western outlook because, China was there on the other side of the globe.
That's right.
But so many people, they never think about the Far East.
I'm just thoroughly impressed. This article is in a secular newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, on Tuesday, December 24th, 2019.
And this is, well, in 1949, do the math.
Yeah.
70 years. And everywhere there was civil order, for the arm of the Roman law was long. Everywhere there was stability in government and in society, for the centurions saw that it was so. He doesn't mention what historians call this. What do the historians call this? The Pax Romana, the Roman peace. There are some people, when they look at the words of St. Paul about the birth of our Lord in the fullness of time, he was born of a woman, etc. The idea, it seems to me, is that if our Lord had come at a time earlier or later, it would not have been as propitious. And why was it so at that time? I think it's the Pax Romana. You don't have good religious reform during wartime.
Right.
You have the reverse usually.
That's right.
And there was this Roman peace. So anyway, but everywhere there was something else too. There was oppression. For those who were not the friends of Tiberius Caesar, there was the tax gatherer to take the grain from the fields and the flax from the spindle to feed the legions or fill the hungry treasury, from which divine Caesar gave largesse to the people. Little historical inaccuracy here. Tiberius never called himself divine.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was his nephew who succeeded him, Octavian, Augustus Caesar.
Okay.
He was the first one to proclaim himself divine. But anyway, there was the tax. There was the impressor to find recruits for the circuses. There were executioners to quiet those whom the emperor proscribed. What was a man for but to serve Caesar? There was the persecution of men who dared think differently, or heard strange voices, or read strange manuscripts. There was enslavement of men whose tribes came not from Rome, disdain for those who did not have the familiar visage, and most of all, there was everywhere contempt for human life. What to the strong was one man more or less in a crowded world? Then of a sudden there was a light in the world, and a man from Galilee saying, Render unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. And the voice from Galilee, which would defy Caesar, offered a new kingdom in which every man would walk upright and bow to none but his God. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. And he sent this gospel of the kingdom of man into the uttermost ends of the earth. So the light came into the world, and the men who lived in darkness were afraid, and they tried to lower a curtain so that man would still believe salvation lay with the leaders. But it came to pass for a while in diverse places that the truth did set men free. Although the men of darkness were offended, they tried to put out the light. The voice said, Haste ye while you have the light, lest darkness come upon you. For he that walketh in darkness knoweth not whither he goes. Along the road to Damascus the light shone brightly, but afterward Paul of Tarsus too was sore afraid. He feared that other Caesars, other prophets, might one day persuade men that man was nothing save a servant unto them, that men might yield up their birthright from God for pottage, like Esau, and walk no more in freedom. Then might it come to pass that darkness would settle again over the land, and there would be a burning of books, and men would think only of what they should eat and what they should wear, and would give heed only to new Caesars and to false prophets. Then might it come to pass that men would not look upward to see even a winter star in the east, and once more there would be no light at all in the darkness. Well, just think of recent history. I mean, look at Darfur, Hitler. Hitler. I mean, you had to take him as your leader, or you were not a good German. And what about in Soviet Russia? You know, there's a famous story that Stalin gave one of his long speeches, and after he finished, the people started applauding, and they kept applauding, and the way the story goes, they kept up for 15 minutes. It wasn't because the speech was so good. Everyone was afraid to be the first one to stop clapping. You've heard that story?
No, but I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah. Long, long speech. What about Castro? He'd give those long, 4 or 5 hour speeches. And maybe Kim Jong-un has topped them all. He gave a Christmas talk, although he doesn't believe in Christmas. It was 7 hours long.
Oh my goodness.
He talked about darkness. You know what people always say when you fly over the Korean Peninsula in a plane at night and you look down, you see South Korea lit up brightly, and then North Korea.
Darkness.
Darkness.
Yeah.
Literally. Literally. So anyway, I thought that this message was really, really appropriate for the Feast of the Epiphany. As he mentioned here, men looking up to the how do you put it? Then men, it might have come to pass that men would not look upward to see even a winter star in the east, and once more there would be no light at all in the darkness. So just as I talked about the meaning of Christmas, the meaning of Christmas being the Son of, like St. Augustine said, the Son of God became man in order that men might become sons of God. It seems to me that this is a good presentation of the meaning of Epiphany. When the representatives of the nations, when they came to our Lord. Because, I mentioned this to you last week about Frank Sheed and his description about about seeing the sun and everything being bathed in sunlight. And likewise.
No, you didn't.
Oh,
Tell
I
me.
didn't.
Tell me.
Oh.
I'm Frank Sheep.
Well, Frank Sheep was a wonderful man. He was born in Australia a little before World War I. Immigrated to England to go to Oxbridge. Met the daughter of a leading Catholic layman in England, Wilfred Reed, Ward. He had edited a Catholic newspaper called The Rambler. And he married Maisie Ward, and they started a book company, she and Ward in England, but the Catholic population isn't very big, so there wasn't a big market. So they came to this country, and they really succeeded. And he wrote a lot of wonderful books. And one of the books he talked about how when a person knows God, it's not that there's just another item added to what the person's perspective is. It's sort of like at night you see things, but then in the morning when the sun rises, it's not just a case of another item being added to what you are viewing. Everything becomes bathed in sunlight.
Yes.
Everything becomes bathed in sunlight. And anyway, the men who came from the east, they represented us. They represent all of us who don't have Jewish DNA. And so I hope everybody, when Epiphany rolls around next year and the years afterwards, that you'll remember this as the meaning of Epiphany.
Hopefully it will appear again. The name of the article is In Hoc Anno Domini, and the author is the late Vermont Royster. Vermont, is that right? Okay, we're going to be looking for it next year. You find all the good stuff.
How much time do we have?
We're doing great. We're only 12 minutes in.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Did you hear the good news about Nick Sandman?
I did. He
tell
earned
everybody,
it.
Tell everybody who Nick Sandman
Nick
is.
Sandman what was the event? Why was he in DC? Was that for the March for Life?
You know, that's
year?
interesting. It was a year ago for March for Life.
It sure was. Oh my goodness.
They were bus loaded, these boys that came from Catholic high school in Covington, Louisiana, and they were waiting for the bus to pick them up again.
Yeah. And
By the way, Rush Limbaugh got it wrong. When he was talking about it, he said they were on a school tour of Washington.
Rush, you could do better than that. The little survivors of abortion were standing up for the hopefully survivors in the future. Friends, everybody watching this knows who Nick Sandman is, and we know that he got his settlement from was CNN.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yesterday it was announced that they had reached a financial settlement. CNN knew they would lose if they went to court, and I imagine they didn't want the publicity.
They need it. They need the publicity. So Nick Sandman sued CNN. I'm sorry.
They're saying it like
Sandman.
Mr. Sandman, remember the song?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yes, of course I do. I'm older. I'm old enough. So Nick Sandman sued them for numerous things.
Totally. All of these he sued. $250 million.
But it was for defamation of character. Do you remember the line item? I knew that was one of them.
And also the emotional suffering, whatever it's called.
I can't imagine.
That family was attacked viciously. I mean, their lives were threatened and
That's
everything. Right. I got something in the mail a couple of weeks ago and had a statement from his mother. And she wrote about what the family had been put through. And also it says on the internet that the reason why they're not dropping the suits against the others, like the Washington Post, etc., is they want to teach these people a lesson.
Amen.
And make them feel the pain so that they won't do this to other people in the future.
Yeah, the media took regular people, just like you and I, and the fallout from that calumny, for whatever reason, they decided to calumnize this kid. He's a kid. Yeah, and the fallout from that was devastating to that family. So yeah, they deserve every penny they get and more. But you asked me about that because you wanted to make a point. I'm going off emotionally now, like I always do.
No, I just brought brought it up because there is a lot of good news.
Yeah. There is.
In spite of what we had at the Golden, what do they call it, Golden Globe thing?
That is Hollywood doing what it does. They're just doing what they do.
I wonder if I know some of the viewers are familiar with the Catalyst, the regular publication of the, it's called the Journal of the Catholic League of Religious and Civil Rights. I know there's some ex-Annunciation parishioners in the viewers, among the viewers, and many years ago I wrote a letter asking them if they would send us a bulk mailing of 300 copies every month so we could put them at the back of the church and bill us. They've never billed us. And it's been really wonderful because there's so many visitors at Annunciation and they've never heard of this and they take it with them. And some then go home, they subscribe to get it. And anyway, there was an interesting, well, we got, the anniversary of the infamous Supreme Court decision, the Roe v. Wade decision upon us in the month of January. And something caught my attention in the last month's issue. I haven't received January's yet. It's called Duck Rights See, Kids' Rights No. The New York City Council has banned the sale of...
Fogwa. Might be fogwa.
Explain that.
Delicious duck. Delicious duck that I've never actually tasted.
Goose liver. Goose liver. Saying it involves animal cruelty. Ducks are force-fed to ensure fattened livers. It joins California. New York City joins California in making the sale illegal. Now, Carlina Rivera, sponsor, I guess she's on city council in New York City, sponsored the legislation in New York. She says her legislation, quote, tackles the most inhumane process, unquote.
Tackles the most inhumane process.
She also called it, quote, one of the most violent practices, unquote. Now in January, she celebrated a new law making New York City the first city to set aside funds strictly for abortion. The money pays for the transportation expenses of women coming to New York from other states to abort their children. She bragged how, quote, this fund is just another signal, another example of how New York State and New York City has to be the leader on this issue, unquote. Rivera's right. In January, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo signed a bill that allows abortion through term right up to the moment of birth while dropping all penalties against a doctor who intentionally allows a baby who survives a botched abortion to die. Cuomo was so happy with the legislation that he ordered the lights of the Freedom Tower to shine brightly over Lower Manhattan. California will not tolerate the sale of
Fogwa.
but it represents more than 15% of all abortions in the nation. There is no waiting period, no parental consent, and no requirement that the abortionist be a trained physician. You can do it in the back alley. Here's a series of questions.
Tighter restrictions on a veterinarian than there are for an abortionist.
Good point. Now here's a series of questions that deserves a serious response. Why is it that cities and states that are champions of animal rights are also the champions of abortion rights? Why were many Nazi officials animal rights advocates? Himmler, you youngster may not know who Himmler was. Himmler was the head of the SS. Himmler wanted to ban hunting. And Goering was head of the Luftwaffe. He was the number 2 man. During most of World War II. Goering carried out Hitler's decree to put Germans who violated animal welfare laws into concentration camps. Hitler, who was a vegetarian, now I knew that before, I didn't know about Himmler and Goering. I knew that Hitler was a vegetarian. Hitler planned to ban slaughterhouses following the end of World War II. You have to have bootleg meat.
His utopia was not going to include any slaughterhouses.
Meanwhile, they put Jews in ovens. Now, when it comes to animal rights versus human rights, why do so many liberals in the 21st century have so much in common with Nazis in the 20th century? No, it doesn't mean that being an animal rights advocate today makes one a Nazi, but there's something eerie about persons like Carlino Rivera who find force-feeding ducks to be, quote, inhumane, unquote, and violent, while handling a procedure that crushes the head of a baby who's 80% born. That kind of mentality is surely Nazi-like.
The paradox is striking. That it would, yeah, it would be, not that she could even think abortion is okay, but that she could be such a herald of this violence against human beings.
And that brings me back.
And think fattening up a duck is inhumane.
And that brings me back to the article that we read from. What was a man for but to serve Caesar? In another place. Something like, oh, here it is. What to the strong? What to the strong was one man more or less in a crowded world.
Might
the mentality of
makes
these
right.
people, they're like the ancient Romans.
Yeah, might makes right. I'm intellectually exhausted.
How's our time?
I think we need to rest because
All
I'm
right.
exhausted. You come in and boom, 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 and now my brain is full,
Okay.
and my heart is also full with
And
appreciation.
so long. Fear not, little flock. It has pleased your Father to give you the kingdom. See you next week.